I just want to say that I walked in this morning and I saw this whole lobby filled with these amazing women, and I'm going to cry now as well, but I almost cried. This is an amazing event because we know that as product managers, we are making decisions about how the future will be shaped, not just the future of technology, but the future of society and the future of human interaction. So the fact that there is this amazing ballroom filled with women from all parts of the world really gives me hope for what the 21st century is going to be like. So I'm gonna try not to cry, but it's amazing. And the more that we do this, thank you, Women in Product, for bringing us together. The more that we do this and support each other, the better the future will be. So I'm gonna talk about how to make your product successful. Who wants to make their product successful? Anybody? Yeah, of course we do. So I'm going to ask you, is there a common factor that separates successful from unsuccessful products? And I'm going to give you some options. And if you think that it's this factor, raise your hand. So raise your hand if you think that what makes a product successful is better technology. Is it better technology? No. Beta versus VHS, which one had the better technology? Right? So it's not better technology. Okay, sorry. Some of the formatting got a little messed up there. Go with it. Okay. Is it being first? Which one was first? VRBO or Airbnb? Right. Is it being first? Anybody think it's being first? No, it's not being first. And is it having access to more resources, right? Remember back in the early 2000s, which company had more resources, Amazon or Walmart? Walmart. So is it access to resources? No, it is not scale and resources. So the common factor is what? Customers, focusing on customers and delivering customer value. And the way that we do that, and every company, right, says that they're customer-centric. But how do we actually do that? And what I'm going to say and what I'm going to ask you to think about is how you work is critically important. And as a product manager, setting up your teams and your processes and even thinking about who is on your team and who you talk to and who you hire is really important for maintaining that customer centricity. So in this video, just listen to this video for a minute.
E-commerce company or a retailer. Others see you as an innovative tech company. You have Amazon Web Services, and you have original content, and you have Alexa, and so many other things. How should we be thinking about Amazon?
Yeah, I do get that is something that people get confused about sometimes. What is Amazon? We do such a diverse array of things, from producing original content at Amazon Studios to Amazon Web Services, where we sell startups and enterprises, computing infrastructure, to the things that most people know about, which is our consumer offering, where we deliver things in little brown boxes. And these things seem so disparate. How is it that we're doing all of them? And the common thread, and really what it is it's an approach. We have a very distinctive approach that we have been honing and refining and thinking about for 22 years. And it's really just a few principles that we use as we go about these activities. At the very top of the list is one I've already mentioned, but you'll probably hear it 10 times throughout tonight because it's so central, and it is customer obsession. It's customer obsession instead of, for example, competitor obsession, or business model obsession, or product obsession, or technology obsession. There are many ways to center a business. And by the way, many of them can work. I know and have friends who lead very competitor-obsessed companies, and those companies can be successful. That's not a bad strategy. You have to be really good at close following. You identify winners when you watch your competitors very carefully. If they latch onto something that's working, you duplicate it as quickly as possible. It's a very good strategy in some ways because you don't have to go down blind alleys. If you're not pioneering, if you're only close following, it has some advantages. but it has some disadvantages too. And I like the customer obsession model. I think it's the right one. I think it's better than product obsession even. I think product obsession is not bad, but I think customer obsession gets you there in a healthier way.
Okay. So what did you notice about Jeff Bezos talking about what is Amazon? It's an approach. It's an approach that's grounded in customer obsession. And it used to be, if I remember about 10 years ago, people, when they would say, what is Amazon? People would be like, well, Amazon is really a logistics company. Amazon is really good at logistics, right? And then, a few years ago, I was like, well, what is Amazon? Well, Amazon is really a technology company, right? They're really good at technology. Jeff answers that question to say, what is Amazon? It's an approach. It's a way that we organize the company. It's a mindset that we build in the company to create customer obsession throughout. And remember, he said customer obsession instead of competitor obsession, instead of product obsession, instead of the other ways that you can center a business. And that's what I'd like us to kind of step back, and say, if we really want to drive customer obsession as the primary approach in our organizations and our teams, here's what we can do as product leaders to create that. So as product leaders, we really do two things. The first is to identify the right thing to build, and then to figure out how to build it right. And I would say that in the last 5 years, most of the stuff that we've been reading around product management is really focused on the second. It's really focused on figuring out how to build it right? This is all the A/B testing and all the lean startup methods and NPS scores and all that kind of stuff. That's once you have the right idea, right? How do you actually iterate your way along and transform that idea to make sure that we're building it the right way? But I want to back up and ask us, how do we even know as product managers that we're identifying the right thing to build? And that is an approach and a mindset and a way of working, right, that puts the customer first and that creates ideas based on, really the customer needs and identifying not just what customers say they need, especially if you're in enterprise software, you'll probably hear a lot of salespeople telling you that they already know what customers need. Does that sound familiar? Anybody? Yes? Okay. So it's not just listening to what customers say they need, but it's inventing on behalf of customers. It's developing deep, deep empathy so that you can identify the right thing to build next, even before your customers tell you that they want that. So there are 3 things I'm going to talk about that you can do to orient your teams to be more customer-centric. We're going to talk about process, we're going to talk about metrics, and we're also going to talk about skills and talent, because I think the people on your team are also very important. Okay, so the first is process. We want to center decisions around the customer. Be honest, how many of you guys, when all is said and done, center your decisions around your executives? A few hands went up. I would say there's probably more hands in the audience than the ones that actually went up. And probably your executives don't align 100% to your customers. So what are some of the things that we can do really tangibly at all levels as product leaders to help center our decisions around the customer? So one thing at Amazon that we do is the PRFAQ process. Has anybody heard of this process, PRFAQs? Yeah, okay. So every product starts with a PRFAQ. Every new product, new idea starts with a PRFAQ. When I was a new GM at Amazon Web Services, I had to write the first PRFAQ for the new product that we were developing. And I was like being a good executive. And so what I did is I worked with one of my product managers, and we did this whole great competitor analysis, because we were actually launching a product that was in a pretty developed, space already. So we needed to look at how we were going to differentiate from the other big players that were there currently. And so we did this great competitor analysis, and we did this chart with the different feature sets and what they were doing or what we wanted to do. And then I shopped around this PRFAQ to a bunch of longtime Amazonians, and they all said the same thing. They said, that competitor thing put that in the appendix. And I was like, well, but that's really important. And they're like, yeah, it's important, but it's not really what the PR FAQ is supposed to be. But is anybody going to read the appendix? Maybe, right? So again, that process, that tool, that mechanism of having everyone really focus on the PR FAQ, that is a press release from the point of view of the customer. What is the value we're bringing to customers in the world? What are customer quotes going to be once they see the product? Those are the things that go into the body of the PR FAQ. And that competitor stuff, no matter how good it is, that goes in the appendix. And then that is the orienting document for everyone on the team, for the engineers, for the UX designers, for everyone on the team. That is the document. And it has the customer quotes, and it has the customer needs, and those kinds of things. And all the technology and all the competitor stuff, if they're interested in it, it's in the appendix. Okay. So that's the PR FAQ process, right? It's the press release, the FAQ list, which is both external FAQs and internal FAQs, and then very importantly, a portrayal of the customer experience, right? So that very first PR FAQ that I did, I literally sketched on 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper in Sharpies what the actual product would look like, right? And that was because that was really important to understand what customers were going to experience. All right. And then there's something else that Jeff Bezos says, which I think is not very well understood, which is that when the anecdotes and the data conflict, trust the anecdotes, right? So we get a lot of data, we get a lot of, customer research at Amazon, and he actually said in a all-hands meeting recently that when you have these two things and they're in conflict, trust the anecdotes. So I would say that's pretty important. In addition, one of the things that you can do as a product manager is bring the customer into every room. This is for the Lightning redesign that we did at Salesforce. This is a real customer who is using Salesforce. We put his stories and his pictures up on the walls as we were brainstorming the ideas with product management, engineering, and UX design. And then we put him into a lot of the presentations and a lot of the rooms as the engineers were thinking about the design and how they were going to deliver this product, right? So bring the actual customers, the real ones, not the fake personas. I don't want to see any fake people in your room. No more fake people, okay? One thing I ask you, bring the real customers in the room. The real customers with their real pictures and their real names and their real stories into the room, right? Not the fake people. Okay. The second is metrics. So measure what matters to the customer, not what matters to your organization, not what matters to your shareholders, not what matters to your boss's boss. Measure what matters to your customer, right? And here, I'm not going to play the video, but at Amazon, there's really 2 to 3 core customer benefits that are really important. For any business, for any product, no matter how complex it is, there's only 2 or 3. And I've worked with some very, very large companies to help them redesign their dashboards, and we always get down to 2 to 3. So here's something that Intuit did. I know there's a pretty good contingent here from Intuit. Anybody here from Intuit? Yes. What is this? The True North dashboard. How many customer benefits are there for any product? 3, and they are more money, no work, and complete confidence for every business, right? For every business. And the dashboard, the True North dashboard at Intuit, is oriented in this order: employees first, then customer benefits, then partners, their shareholders. And I talked to the chief of staff, for now the former CEO, but he said, our philosophy is, fundamentally, if you take care of the employees, they will create great experiences for the customers. And if the customers are happy, the shareholders will be just fine. The shareholders will be just fine, right? Make your team happy, help them understand the purpose of what they're doing. That will make the employees happy, or the customers happy, because the employees will be focused on them. And the shareholders, they're just going to be just fine if we do that. Okay? So the third is talent. And here I'm going to say, global products require deep local experience. How many of you guys work on technology products? Just raise your hand if you work on a technology product. So leave your hands up. How many of you guys, your technology products are either global or you're planning to expand globally? Keep your hand up if you're global. Okay. And now keep your hand up if your chief product officer has lived and worked in a decision-making capacity in an emerging market. Right. So there was this thing that happened back in the 1990s. Anybody remember the 1990s? Pearl Jam, right? Big baggy like sweaters. Okay. What happened in the 1990s in business is globalization happened, and companies like Procter & Gamble and MasterCard and PepsiCo realized they were building global products for these emerging markets without any decision makers who had actually worked in those markets. And they were like, this is crazy bonkers bananas. Because we actually need people who really understand these places, not people who were just born in those places and then emigrated as children or came here for college and then never left Palo Alto, but people who actually had worked and understand what the decision-making is like in these emerging markets. And somehow, in the 2000s, we have lost all of that learning from the era of globalization and from these amazing companies like Procter & Gamble that really know how to do global product decision-making really well. So I was an executive working with Procter & Gamble at Leo Burnett Moscow. And I'm going to tell you, product decision-making, even for global products, requires deep local knowledge. And so at the top, there's Tide. So on the right-hand side is the Tide that we all experience, right? It is a 5-gallon thing of Tide. So what's the experience of Tide that we all have? We get in our SUV. We drive to Costco. We get this 5-gallon tub of Tide. We bring it down to our basement. And then we need to do laundry. We put it in our big-ass washing machine, right? That's what we experience about Tide. When Tide launched in Russia, we had to completely rethink that experience because guess what? People don't have SUVs. Most people don't have cars. They walk to their kiosk, their local kiosk, to buy their laundry detergent, or they have to get on a bus or a little minivan, right, with 12 other people packed into this little minivan. So the experience of Tide in Russia is packages of 150 grams. How big is 150 grams? Anybody know? It's a cup. That's right, it's a cup. So you really have to rethink the entire way that you approach the product. And if you're a global decision maker, if you are the head of Tide, if you're the general manager of Tide globally, you need to understand why these things matter and how to make decisions across the globe. And you can only do that by actually working on the ground for some period of time. It's very hard to understand how different those experiences are if you've never been in a situation locally that you have to experience those things. And then there's a Tampax story, which I'm happy to talk to any of you guys about later, but there was a whole thing around Tampax and our assumptions around launching Tampax in Russia that didn't turn out to be true. So, in order to effectively manage global products and be customer-centric about them, you must live and work with the people who will use your products. You must do their jobs and live in their homes, and there is no substitute. Getting user research reports or research reports from other people is not a substitute if you're doing real decision-making globally or if you want to expand your product globally. So I would like you to consider what customer centricity actually means and how you can organize yourself, your teams, and your entire organization to deliver. Thank you.